in 2015, a secret Facebook group called What Would Virginia Woolf Do began as a forum where women over 40 could find inspiration on everything from fashion and relationships to parenting and health. Now the author Nina Collins shares the community in a new book with advice and true stories from her own life. Nina Collins joins us today. Welcome. How are you?
Hi.
So why Virginia Woolf?
So in 2015, I was like 46, and I wasn't sleeping well suddenly out of nowhere. I was having the beginning of perimenopause, which I didn't realize at first. That phase as a woman kind of descends into menopause. And at the time, I was in a graduate program.
I prefer to think of it as rising into menopause.
Rising, descends, estrogen dropping. There's various ways you can look at it.
But go ahead.
Anyway, I wasn't sleeping well, and I wanted to create a place where my girlfriends and I could talk about kind of the indignities of aging with humor and to share stuff and not feel so ashamed. And I called it What Would Virginia Woolf Do? Because most of my friends are really smart, kind of funny feminists. And I was actually working on a graduate paper about Virginia Woolf at the time. And it was really just an ironic, dark joke. I mean, she killed herself in her 50s, and the joke was, should we all just chuck in, throw in the towel?
No, I'm going to say no.
No, definitely not. And we've learned definitely not through the group in a lot of ways.
But sharing that sort of stuff, how you feel about it, even if you kind of know, maybe I shouldn't feel this bad about X, Y, or Z, but you do, and you want to talk about it and get some ideas. It sounds like it was a very sisterly experience.
Yeah, it's been a kind of amazing thing. I started it as a secret group, and it was like 20 or 30 of my closest friends, and within a few months, it had grown to hundreds and then thousands. We now have 16,000 women all over the country and even the world. And they're very unusually candid. Like, it's a space where we really kind of treat it like Vegas, like nothing's supposed to go outside of the group. And women talk about really everything, their marriages, their sex lives, their bodies, health, what they're reading. But it's very much from a certain perspective of kind of smart women thinking about how they want to live their best lives. And it's interesting, we don't talk about kids very much. A lot of us are mothers, a lot of us aren't, but it's not a mommy group. It's really kind of feminist, smart, funny place. I mean, I like to say now the group is closed, it's no longer secret, so people can ask to join, and you have to answer 3 questions. And, our criteria is kind of willing to be open and supportive and honest about your life. The whole idea is kind of that we don't have to feel ashamed, really, that we have a ton to offer. And
Heck no.
The sisterhood has been really empowering and kind of surprising. I think women have learned how common everything we go through is, and it's been powerful. Yeah.
And shame is such a toxic emotion. Anything that dispels that improves anyone's life.
Yeah, I was really inspired by the work of Brene Brown, who's written on vulnerability and shame. I really love her. And I mean, you can see if you've read anything I've written, like, I'm unusually open, probably. I just feel like there's nothing really to be gained from secrecy, really.
Or pretending.
Or pretending that things are different from what they really are.
That's, just putting it out
just
there.
Just last night I had dinner with a Seattle wolfer. The women call themselves wolfers.
I was just about to ask you about that. I think that's hilarious.
It's great. And we now have subgroups all over the country. So I traveled across country this winter, and I've been meeting women all over the country. It's amazing. And so I meet these women, and I immediately connect with them. We kind of feel like we know each other online. And but she said to me what so many women said. Like, this particular woman said, she felt like her mother, she had come from a really complicated family and had always carried around a lot of burden around that. And then through the group, she's realized we all come from really complicated families. That's not news. And so, yeah.
Not being alone.
Not being alone.
In the midst of whatever you're doing is pretty helpful. How did this turn into a book? What was your process?
So basically, I was spending a lot of time on Facebook, like an unhealthy amount of time on Facebook as the group grew. And
no one ever does that, do we?
And I was not.
That's so unusual.
Yeah, it was bad. And my kids and it was embarrassing. And so I had to kind of figure out a way, how can I legitimize my time spent on Facebook? And I come from.
I'll say I'm writing a book.
Well, and I come from book publishing, and the truth, the group was so interesting, and I thought, there's a lot to say here. And my idea was basically kind of like when I was having kids, there was What to Expect When You're Expecting, and The Girlfriend's Guide to Pregnancy. And I thought, well, I can write like a girlfriend's guide to the second half of our lives, like a kind of funny, sexy look at this stuff. And so basically with the book is I I took the subjects that we talk about frequently, so fashion, bodies, health, depression, money, kids, relationships, sex, and then that was how I organized the chapters, and then each chapter starts with a story. I mean, it really is my book. The book it's my story, my take on aging, but then I kind of bring in experts and some voices from the group and girlfriends just to kind of round out, particularly on subjects that maybe I don't know as much about or have as much of a personal opinion about.
So will there be a follow-up to this? I mean,
we'll
life goes
see.
on, you're going to learn more and more.
I mean, there's so many interesting, I have found this a subject. When I got divorced 10 years ago from the father of my first children, all my children, sorry, I thought about creating a business, a group around divorce. And at the time I thought, I don't really want to spend the rest of my life thinking about divorce. But this is something, there's a lot of really rich material here. And I feel like you could kind of go on and on. And it's interesting, I'm 48 and the average age in the group is probably 54 or so. So of course, whatever I'm experiencing now is going to keep changing for all of us. I mean, we learned so much from the older women in the group. We have women in their 70s. I don't think we have any women in their 80s, but we really love the range of voices and experience. It teaches us so much.
It does, and reaching back, just as it did when we were having kids or raising kids.
Totally, absolutely.
There's nothing different about that now, right?
No, it's absolutely
true. So I hope you'll keep writing about all of this, and I think it's a lovely idea. A wolfer, I think I want to be a wolfer.
You should be a wolfer. We would love it. So you you just go on Facebook and you type in "What would Virginia Woolf do?" and then you get 3 questions, and you should just say you met me, because now we have a little bit of a list, a little bit of a wait list, because it's a lot of people have been lately asking to join, and then you join, and then we have these subgroups and we have subject groups. We have like a business networking group, and
thank you.
We'd
That
love to
sounds
have
fun.
you.
If I can have a margarita while I'm doing it, that would be even
We
better.
drink tequila. That's our drink of
Oh,
choice.
excellent. There, I'm in. Nina's book event, co-presented by Elliott Bay Book Company and co-working space The Riveter, is tomorrow night at 7:30 at The Riveter on Capitol Hill. And speaking of books, today happens to be World Book Day, and there's a new movie coming out called Book Club. See what I did there? It's all
Look at you.
It's about 4 lifelong friends whose club takes a hilarious turn when they decide to tackle the infamous 50 Shades of Grey books. The movie stars Diane Keaton, Jane Fonda, Candice Bergen, and Mary Steenburgen. It opens May 18th, and everybody here is getting an advanced screening pass. So please go and enjoy. That should be pretty fun,
Yeah,
right?
we've talked about that in our group.
Love those 4. Okay, after the break, how to add a little green to your life by choosing the right plants for your home and then keeping them alive. After this.